Welcome back to IDFC First Bank Presents Leaders of Tomorrow Season 11. You're watching our very special weekend edition, Voice What Presents Super Achievers Making New India. In this segment, we'll be putting the spotlight on Mesh, a company that's transforming the manufacturing sector through its digital innovations. My colleague Rohan Richard caught up with Sahil Shah, CEO and President, Mesh.
India's dynamic manufacturing sector is driving economic growth and technological advancements. In recent years, the sector has witnessed a transformative shift towards automation and digitalization. And at the forefront of the country's manufacturing innovation is a young entrepreneur, Sahil Shah, President and CEO of Mesh, who is fostering an environment of global collaboration by providing a level playing field and connecting industrial buyers and suppliers from around the world and extending India's presence beyond its borders.
Welcome to Super Achievers Making New India. Sahil, it's a pleasure having you with us.
Yes, thank you, Rohan. How are you?
I'm great. How are you doing?
Doing well, doing well.
Sahil, let me begin by asking you, the journey of Mesh sounds intriguing. Now, what went into it? What was the backstory? And what was the personal motivations behind Mesh?
Yeah. So I studied industrial engineering and statistics at Purdue. And in 2017, I was doing an internship with MES Inc., which is actually the company that Mesh spun off from. Now, what they were doing is they were buying parts globally, procuring different mechanical parts in a variety of different commodities and processes. So I went there with a project to look for specific surface coaters, anodizing, chromating, and powder coating specifically. So I visited probably 50, 60 odd factories in a 6-week period. And we, MES, was internally using a tool that allowed us to do all of our quoting, new product development, and whatnot. And I saw an opportunity as an industrial engineer, to kind of streamline the processes the way it was for us, to do for all of the suppliers that were also, that we were working with and kind of reviewing during my trip. So for me, there was 2 real opportunities that came out of that. One was to build a marketplace for industrial commodities and processes that was third-party audited. Okay. So you could have an apples-to-apples comparison. But the idea is to have an avenue, a marketplace where we could audit ourselves, Mesh, do the audits for all, different suppliers around the world, and give buyers globally, a place where they could look, at like an apples-to-apples comparison. And then, obviously, as I mentioned, taking the tool that was internally used and applying that. So there was 2 kind of opportunities: the network, the marketplace, as well as the technology integration, into the supplier's workflow and processes.
Got it. So like a one-stop shop, basically.
Absolutely.
Now, could you tell us about what industries or sectors does Mesh cater to?
Yeah. So we have 2 products right now on the marketplace. And one is supplier relationship management, which is focused on larger organizations who are buying and sourcing products globally. And then the second product, Mesh QMS, which is our quality management system, which is designed for small, mid-sized suppliers who are supplying to those, purchasing organizations and whatnot. So the industries that we serve, it started with automotive, but the applications that go into automotive also are used in a variety of different industries. So hydraulics, construction, lighting, e-mobility, oil and gas, really a variety of different, when you think of the heavy industrial markets, those are all areas that we serve. And I think I'll take that one step further. So the 2 products are based off of 2 gaps in the market that we really saw. So the supplier relationship management, which is the first product we released. So we saw a big gap in the customer relationships versus supplier relationships, and we feel that for any manufacturing organizations, both of those are important. You can't sell to your customer without your supplier, and you can't supply, the other way as well. If the customer's not there, then the supplier doesn't have business. And then the second thing is, for our second product, the Mesh QMS, APQP is a process called Advanced Product Quality Planning. And that was put in place by the Automotive Industry Action Group back in 1994. APQP was something that historically in the last 25, 30 years has been done completely manual. There are not very many tools out there, but it's a very niche area. Now, India right now, we'll get into probably Make in India and some of the other things as well, but India right now is doing, in their manufacturing GDP, 50% of it is automobile manufacturing. So that's where we see a real big gap. There's more and more suppliers coming up, more and more automobile opportunities, but the technology is not following them the same way.
Now, Sahil, manufacturing comes with intricate challenges. What are the product or solutions that Mesh offers that kind of help the industry at large?
So one of the challenges with QMS and APQP is the amount of stakeholders that are in the entire process. So let me give you an example. I said there's 30,000 parts. That can be nuts, bolts, everything. Now that turns into, 3,000, 4,000 SKUs. Now you could have a very unassuming fastener or a bolt that, has 5 different stakeholders. It could have a manufacturing stakeholder, it could have an engineering stakeholder, it could have a purchasing stakeholder, it could have a customer stakeholder, supply chain. So all of these different departments, both internally and externally, have to be in the know about what's going on. So one of the core pieces of the value that Mesh provides is that ability to have different stakeholders involved in the process and have the right information at the right time with the, to make the right decision.
Sahil, in one of the previous questions, you mentioned something about Make in India, which brings me to that exactly is what my next question is going to be. How does Mesh align with key government initiatives like Skill India and Make in India? And any case studies or any projects or collaborations that kind of exemplify that alignment?
Today, there are not very many ways for a small supplier in Rajkot, or a small supplier in Gurgaon, or a small supplier outside Coimbatore to get access and exposure to the large buying organizations, right? So that's one of the big things that Make in India does, is we are giving exposure and really leveling the playing field. Because, all the larger suppliers, tier 1 suppliers in India, are all getting opportunities. Yeah. And that's all there because the China plus one strategies that all Fortune 500 companies are rolling out. And as they roll those out, they're really only looking at the large players in India. But what we want to do is give exposure to the small, mid-size. Somebody who's doing 5 crores of business would never have the opportunity with the global large OEM. But we can level that playing field by bringing everybody to the table. Like I said earlier, with our audits, third party, we do them. And they're the same, no matter you're making 200 crores and building for, the largest OEMs in the world, or, just a small mom and pop shop. So one of the things that I feel with Skill India is that it's actually going to create a competitive advantage for India. Because as you build that skill set in a certain subset of the population, that population is now making themselves more valuable. So it's doing good for them, but also doing good for the country, because we as a country, India, is then developing that skill to say, hey, I can also supply this at the same level as large, players around the world.
Sahil, you mentioned something about supplier development and differentiation and technology being the key elements. Okay, so which brings me to my next question. What do you feel about IoT and AI? AI being the buzzword all of a sudden. Where does it feature in the context of Mesh?
No, and I think you've seen things like Chat GPT, and a variety of different, applications that have came out. And I think AI has a place, 100%. It is a large piece of where we're going in the future, 100%. But I look at AI as a 2-step process. So the first step is the automation. and then AI is layered on that automation. So let me take that a little deeper. When you think about automation, it's taking the repetitive tasks, the mundane tasks that you're doing, that buyers, engineers are doing on a day-to-day, week-to-week basis, and automating them. So that's just automation of a task. And that in and of itself provides a tremendous amount of value for, a lot of the organizations that we work with. Now, once you layer AI onto that, where AI is different than automation is it infuses a human level of decision making and analysis. So we are a young company, just in the last year and a half, we've really began gathering all this information. So we're focused on gathering that information, providing the automation, and then slowly, here in the next few months, a year, we will layer AI and machine learning and a variety of these other things to really provide and unlock different levels of insights.
What's next on the horizon for Mesh?
Yeah, so I think what's next for Mesh is two different things. I want to live in a world where buyers are finding suppliers in every corner of the world. And I don't just mean in the large cities like Mumbai and Delhi and London and Stuttgart and Detroit, Michigan. I'm talking about every corner of the world, the rural areas. So we want to connect the buyers and suppliers. That's an important, real initiative for us. And that's going to continue to be a real emphasized focus. So I think that's one thing. But I think the second thing for us is we've thus far been very focused on US, Europe, India, and Mexico. India and Mexico being the emerging markets, manufacturing markets that they are, and US and Europe being the developed, areas and markets that they already are. Now, we see an opportunity in South America, we see an opportunity in Africa, and we see an opportunity even in broader Europe, to continue expanding our footprint. We're actively doing R&D on a mass production purchase order management tool. So that's not available on the market right now, but we're continuing to do R&D. So, it's important to us that we continue to listen to our customers, understand what challenges they have, and continue to serve them in a manner that really allows them to flourish.
Perfect. Sounds like a revolution is in the works, and power to Mesh and power to you guys for whatever it is that you're setting out to do. And yeah, I think perfectly exemplifying our tagline, Super Achievers Making New India. It was a pleasure having you.
Awesome. Thank you, Rohan. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
And with that, it's a wrap on this episode of IDFC First Bank Presents Leaders of Tomorrow Season 11. We hope you enjoyed the conversations. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.